Hello, welcome to another episode of the Fans Huddle podcast. I'm Mark. I'm with Chris and Derrick again. Fellas, huge week of football this week. What'd you make of it? We're going to get into college first and the big Georgia BAMA game. I know Derrick shed a few tears over the weekend, but NFL was huge too. Chris shed a few tears when his boys lost. And I shed a few tears on Monday for the Seahawks. So it wasn't a great week for us, but exciting nonetheless. How are we all doing today?
For sure.
Doing
Everything's good. Yeah, it was a busy week. A lot to talk about. So a lot to discuss. So I think we should just jump right in. What you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Derrick, I'll pass it off to you. I guess the only phrase I can think of is what happened. You said 10 points. That was your margin, and we fell short, down 28-0 in the first quarter. Wasn't the start you wanted.
Yeah, definitely not. Like I said, last week I was saying that it was important for Georgia to get off to a hot start, and that didn't happen on Saturday. Alabama, came out and really put it on us in that first half. And I guess after the game, obviously I was completely wrong about the score, but what I did like about Kirby, he said it best. It was a tale of two halves of football. Georgia had 4 turnovers and looked ugly. Carson Beck was not pretty in that first half. It seemed like didn't really have any big playmakers. Chris has mentioned this a few times. We don't really have that. It seems like we don't have that Brock Bowers, that Lad McConkey, someone that really steps up. There were some drop passes, but yeah, I mean, I was really impressed by Georgia in the second half, though. Really stepped up, and I guess leaving that game, I guess I do have somewhat of a kind of weird. We lost, but I do have a good feeling about the Georgia Bulldogs still. And not many teams would have came back from that deficit. I can go and tell you that. So I was impressed with them in the second half. We got to have them play a full game like that, though, and haven't really seen it yet this season. So,
yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, what I watched as kind of I like Georgia, but I'm more of an impartial observer. Like what I saw from Carson Beck in that first half, it was stunning. It was shocking. He seemed shell-shocked. He seemed like he was not prepared. He seemed like the Alabama defense game plan just totally got him just off his game. And I thought they might bench him at halftime. I really thought that. I think it ended up being good that they didn't bench him since he had such a good second half to give him some confidence. But before the game, my biggest thing was like, could they get the rushing game going to offset the pass rush to kind of help alleviate him? And they didn't really get it going. They didn't really try that hard because they were just down so much early. But yeah, I mean, what I saw from him in that first half, it wasn't good. So he got a lot of yards in the second half, a lot of better throws. But yeah, you got to be concerned with him, especially when you look at Georgia's schedule going forward. Like they cannot, against the Kentuckys of the world, they can have slow starts and have slow games and still pull these wins out. When you're playing the Alabamas, when you got Texas coming up, when you have these big Ole Miss, all these teams coming up, if they continue to start off like they did against Alabama, they're going to continue to lose some of these games. They have to fix it, and they have to fix it now before it's too late or the season can turn on them. And that's kind of what I saw in the game.
Yeah, the most concerning thing for me was some of Beck's decision-making was awful. And it wasn't like in the face of pressure. There was one, it might have been his first intercept. It was an RPO, a run-pass option, and he was premeditated. He took the ball, threw it instantly. Now, I know an RPO is supposed to be pretty quick, but the way you're supposed to identify it is, depending on what the defense shows you, you choose to run or you choose to throw the ball. He hiked that ball and threw it straight to the defender. So he was premeditated. There was a couple of throws that was like quadruple coverage almost, it looked like. I don't know if it was the defense or his decision-making, his processing, but it didn't look like a first-round quarterback type performance. And that was the most concerning for me. I think his draft stock dropped massively over the weekend.
And I gotta give one shout out to Alabama. Ryan Williams. Okay, this kid is 17 years old.
Awesome.
And he had 6 for 177 and a touchdown. He looked like the best player on that field in that game. So, that's what Georgia needs. We need a Ryan Williams, we need that guy. And it just feels like we don't have it right now,
Yeah, no, for sure. And to Mark's point, too, that play you're talking about where he threw that pick, I think Kirby kind of covered up for Carson at the end of the game. They asked him about that, and he's like, no, Carson did what he was supposed to do. But again, the offense put the defense in a lot of bad situations, the Georgia defense. And I guess if anything, I'm really impressed with the defense for them to really do what they did in the second half, because man, they were drug around in that first half because the offense, literally Alabama was on our side of the 50. It seemed like just like that.
And Georgia could not contain the edge in the first half on any play.
No.
They were getting outrun to the hash marks and to the sideline every single time. They made, to your point, they made great adjustments in the second half. And Alabama, late in the game, obviously they put some points on the board, but for the first, I would say 20 minutes or whatever of the second half, 25 minutes, Alabama could hardly even get a first down. So yeah, they definitely showed up at the beginning of the second half.
Question for you two. I was out of the bar on Saturday night, so I was a few drinks deep, so I'm not sure if what I was seeing was correct. But when Milroe rushes for 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, I was shocked that they didn't have a quarterback spy in there at some stage. Like, it was almost like they would run to the corners, and then the whole middle just opened up for him every time, and he took it. And I was thinking, like, at what point does Kirby put a spy there? I thought that was a little bit arrogant, and they paid for it because Milroe was just running all over them. And once that started happening and they started paying more attention to him, which was too late, he started throwing it, and they just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. I think it was in the first quarter. I said the same thing. I'm like, why do we not have someone on Milroe at all times? And, I guess Kirby was just, I'm not really sure. I think they maybe just went in more confident than what they should have been. But Milroe was running to those edges, and like Chris said, they could not get a stop. Milroe was just hitting that edge and, getting 10, 11, 12 yards every time.
Yeah, and to him too. When he first came out, he got benched. A few games in his first season, and he has really improved as a quarterback. So I just want to say that Georgia played a real Alabama team. I know there's no Saban. This team is a legit team with talent across the board. So I think it lived up to the billing. Georgia Alabama, the games always end up being like this. They're always high-scoring games, which you think good defense and all that stuff. And, these teams never disappoint. And, hopefully we'll get to see it again on a bigger stage, and maybe Georgia will get another crack at it.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be my next point. Let's talk about the outlook of the SEC, because you've got Texas, you've got Alabama,
Kentucky. You got Kentucky.
Kentucky. But in terms of the way the SEC works now, it's one conference and it's the top 2 play in the SEC championship. You probably can only afford one loss, sometimes none, but let's say one for now. That means that Texas and Georgia game in a few weeks is really Georgia's last chance to play in that game. And right now, you'd be probably picking Texas. Derek, what do you think? What does Georgia need to do to make sure that they're competitive in that game? They're away again.
Well, I think they learned a valuable lesson in the Alabama game. I do expect to see a different Georgia team moving on this season, just from that second half. I don't think they'll make that mistake again, and I don't think any other moment this season is going to be bigger than what that Alabama game was. Even with them going to Texas and Ole Miss, that environment that they played in Saturday night is that's the cream of the crop right there. They're not going to play in a bigger moment. And so for them to do that in the second half in that moment, I do have confidence them going to Texas. But they got to get off to a hot start. And they got to have some playmakers. They got to have somebody step up and make some plays. And putting up points in the first and second quarter. Great second half team Georgia is, but I'm tired of saying that.
Yeah.
You got to put up points in the first half and then maintain, and they're playing catch up, and I don't like that. So we'll see what they do against Auburn Saturday. That'll be a true test. I'm not saying Auburn's anything, great, but they're going to Auburn, and
So always a rivalry. Those rivalry games are always big, so got to be careful. I think if I'm Kirby Smart, I'm sitting down Carson Beck, and I'm saying to him, like, you want to play in the NFL, you want to be one of those guys, like, you need to show it now the rest of the season. Like, everyone's against you right now. The cards are stacked against you. This is your opportunity to go out there and prove that you're a first-round quarterback. And a lot of people had him at number 1. So,
kid's got a lot of talent. But
he does.
Stetson Bennett, that was one thing I love about Stetson. I feel like there was not too many moments that was too big for Stetson Bennett, and he played. His biggest moments came in big games, and that's why he's a 2-time national champion. I mean, they had a quarterback like that, and so yeah, it doesn't feel good knowing that Carson kind of struggled like that moving forward. But Kirby's a great coach. It's a great program still, and they gotta win against Texas though. They have to have that win for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. All right, let's stay in the SEC. And you mentioned Ole Miss and Kentucky. Upset. Big upset. We kind of spoke last week, though, that Kentucky might have been playing a lot better than what their ranking suggested. They obviously stayed in the game with Georgia. This is a big win for them. I was surprised to not see them creep into the 25 after this week. But if they keep winning, they're good. But, I mean, Ole Miss, Lane Griffin's going to be super disappointed because this is they've started really well and they're highly ranked. Tough loss.
Yeah, I'll let Chris, you take away on this one since you mentioned
Kentucky. First of all, Lane Kiffin, okay, less. This guy, you want to talk about a cat that's got 9 lives. This guy, he always shows up somewhere. And and then something happens, he gets a big hit, and then they blow it. Ole Miss was putting up almost 700 yards of offense and averaging like 60 points a game. And the Kentucky defense just shut them down, only allowed 17 points. That Kentucky defense it's legit. So anybody that plays them going forward, like you got to be on notice. They haven't been able to put a lot of points on board with my mullet man, at QB, but on defense, I mean, they were on the road and, Ole Miss was just, I know they hadn't really played anybody yet, but they were trouncing people. I mean, they were just murdering people. And Kentucky came out there. It was a close game and, it came down to the end and all that stuff. But you got to give your hat off to Kentucky. They have now played, I mean, that Georgia game, they could have won that game easily. It just went right down to the wire. So, I mean, they could have wins against Georgia and Ole Miss right now. So you got to just, nobody looked at Kentucky before the season. That just shows you the SEC, in my opinion, how strong and deep it is. So they got a pretty soft schedule going forward. They got Vanderbilt, Florida, Auburn before they play Tennessee, and then they kind of got some hard teams at the end. But yeah, they should be winning these next few games. So I don't know. That was interesting. Definitely upset of the weekend.
Speaking of the 9 lives, Chris, I mean, if it don't work out in Ole Miss for Lane, I think University of Florida, I think they'd have him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I agree with you. Kentucky's defense is legit. At the time when they played the number 1 team, Georgia, and that was, Georgia won by 1 point, and they go beat Ole Miss in their house, and they got to have a lot of confidence right now moving forward. So yeah, whatever Mark Stoops is doing, he's getting his guys ready to play. So big upset there.
Yeah, like Chris, you said, they got Tennessee, and then they finish with Texas and Louisville, so 3 more ranked teams. They pull off an upset or 2 there, they could really, and they win out the rest. They're a chance.
Yeah. When you get a defense like that, you're going to be in every single game, So, I don't know. You can definitely play spoiler.
I like their defense. It's good to watch. Let's go to Friday night. Derek, you and I were texting about this game.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
It's been debated all over the internet, been debated at work, been debated at bars.
I think it's been debated between you two. I think it's been debated between you two guys. Okay.
We're going to debate again. Chris is, you're the middleman. You said, you're undecided.
I am still undecided.
First of all, though, it was a great game. One of those, they're a good team, Virginia. Is that they played West Virginia, right?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. Yep. There's so many Virginia teams. I always get mixed up. But I think Miami's kind of been a little bit under the radar. Like, I know they're ranked pretty well, but they've been going along, and then they had a bit of a challenge. Their quarterback, his name is escaping me, Ward. Is it?
Yeah, Cam Ward. Yeah,
Cam Ward. I think he looked awesome on Friday. Some of the plays he pulled up. There was one where it was 4th down or 3rd down. They were behind. He broke a sack, spun out of a second one, and then did like a little push pass, like just pushed it to the tight end, and he ran down to the 1. It was awesome. So overall, great game. What do we think of Miami? And then we'll talk about the finish.
Yeah, I don't know about Miami. They are, top 10 team at the moment. And I do like Cam Ward. He's a heck of a quarterback. He transferred out, I think, from Washington State, but the kid's got a lot of game, and I enjoy watching him play. I like to see them play. Maybe it's hard to gauge the ACC right now too. Just
their schedule
in general,
so
schedules
weak.
are just awful. So
Yeah.
I like to see Miami get somebody legit, and then I kind of have a better idea what the Miami program is doing. But Miami again. I think I mentioned that like in the last 3 or 4 years, they've really started improving year after year, and they finally found themselves, ranked in the top 10 pretty consistently now. So we'll see what happens. But the game itself was exciting, and my take on the call, the Hail Mary,
He's going straight to it.
We're gonna get right to it. Exciting game, but the last play. Here's the way I see it. The refs called a touchdown. And regardless of that pass is incomplete or complete, it was called a touchdown. I feel like you go to video review. It was really hard to tell from the replay that I saw. And I don't think you can overturn that. I think Virginia Tech had one stolen from.
Yeah, and you share the opinion of a lot of people. Everyone it's like 50-50. I worked with a Miami fan. He was like, that was a touchdown. I'll take it, but that was a touchdown. I don't know if there's different rules to the NFL, so I might be talking out of hand here, but what I saw was he caught the ball, he's coming down. As he hits the ground, the ball moves. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's not a completed catch. Like you can have possession of the ball, but you're in the air, so it's not completed until you hit the ground. He hits the ground, the ball moves, then there's a bit of, you don't see for a bit, but then the ball comes out. To me, it was clear enough to overturn it, but
we're in this debate because Des Bryant and Green Bay Packers, started all this. Okay. What is considered a completed?
Coming back to Green
what
Bay
is considered a completed catch? I
didn't see that coming. I didn't know it was going to come back to my team. So,
well, a completed catch is you got to have a body part. In college, it's one foot down, right? So he's midair. Yeah. He jumps up in midair. So at the moment, even though he's caught it, it's not a completed catch until he hits the ground. And I think the contact of the ground started to dislodge the ball, which to me says that it didn't have full control of it. And to your point, there needs to be 100% certainty. Like it has to be clear evidence. I don't know if there was clear evidence, and maybe you're right. But if I'm one of those reviewers, I'm like 99.9% sure that this ball might have come out. So I'm just going to say this. So I don't know. It can go either way, but teams. It always seems to lean towards the ranked team, doesn't it? Like a call like this. So
yeah, and it kind of just takes, to be honest with, like I said, I disagree with the call the way it is, and we saw this, there's so many games that come within inches of a call being made and a penalty being called, and it determines the outcome of a game. And I think if you just cannot 100%, you said 99.9%, but it wasn't 100%. If you do not have 100% guarantee that ball came loose, and it's called a touchdown, I just feel like you got to stick with that. But I understand what you're saying too. I understand that side of it, and I do understand what you said. He did have that ball. It was pressed against his chest until he went to the ground, and then it did move. Chris. What is your opinion on this? We obviously are different.
I think I'm even more confused now than I was before. So, I mean, I've never seen. I couldn't when I kept watching the replay. I couldn't see what happened when he came down with the ball because you couldn't really see. You saw the ball pop out later, but it was almost impossible to tell whether he had control as he was coming down to the ground because there were the players were blocking. I don't understand why it only seemed, I don't know why it seemed like there was only one camera angle. I don't understand what happened there. Like if you talk to the NFL, we got pylon cams, we got goalpost cams, we got drone cams and all this stuff. And they only had one shot from the side. If you ask me deep inside, do I think he caught it? No, I don't think he caught it. But at the same time, I don't think they had enough evidence to overturn it if they call it a touchdown. So I'm kind of towing a line. I know I'm kind of on both sides of it, but I think they probably got it right in the end, maybe. But it was just, I don't know. I think that's a tough deal for Virginia Tech to lose that way. And I think, you're going to feel bad for either team. It was just a tarp play. I just wish they had a better angle when he went to the ground with the ball. So, cause he's kind of tugging it, kind of in his stomach area, right on his hip. You couldn't see it when it hit the ground. So I don't know. I'm still confused.
There's so many bodies for those end of game Hail Marys. It's going to be tough. The game I thought of, Chris, you'll remember this one as well.
Don't
Was-
don't
I know
talk
what
about the
you're gonna
Packers
talk
again.
about. I know. Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't want to
Oh,
talk
yeah, I
about the
remember this too.
replacement refs. I don't want
I'm
to
going
talk
to
about
talk
the
about the Hail Mary in Seattle.
This was
That
a Russell,
was
right?
one. Yes, that was a
Uh-huh.
Russ. That was one where it was clearly not a touchdown.
It was
Like,
an interception.
clear. It was an interception, but because there wasn't enough evidence to be 100% certain, they had to give it a touchdown, even though they knew that it wasn't.
Yeah, but do you remember who was? Yeah, that was the year we had the replacement refs because the refs went on strike, and the strike immediately ended after that game. So
And I say they brought him back the very next week. So I got
because they were
Was
terrible.
that was Hawks against the Packers on that game?
Hawks against
Yeah.
Packers. Yeah.
It
So
was,
you've been to 2 games now that's determined really the future of football. I mean, you had the Des Bryant catch against Green Bay in that, was it a wild card game, right? The playoff game?
that was a yes.
Yep. And then that one too. So what's up, man? Packers they gotta quit being so
I know.
involved.
I mean, I don't know how that. Yeah, I'm sorry that we messed up college football for Virginia Tech, but that's
Jeez.
just how it goes
It
sometimes.
all comes around full
Yeah,
circle.
The last thing on this one is my favorite part of it was the way the referee announced it. It was so slow. He was like, after reviewing, the receiver did not catch the ball. I was like, oh man, I was on the edge of my seat. But great game. Miami moves on. They're 1-0 in the ACC. Clemson's 2-0. All roads kind of point to them playing the ACC championship, which I believe get you a top 4 spot, does it not? I'm pretty sure it does. In the playoffs.
You'll get in temporarily till you get rocked in the first round.
Yeah.
See, all roads lead back to the SEC at this point.
All right, let's preview the new rankings, the AP rankings. They changed a lot. What do we think about Texas losing number 1 and Georgia? Alabama taking it. Do we think that's fair? Do we think Texas didn't do much wrong? But Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, I think absolutely got it right. I mean, you got to put Alabama number 1. Big game like that, beat Georgia. Texas obviously undefeated and have looked good, but they have not played a Georgia or Alabama yet. So Alabama's got the big game under control there, and I think they deserve that number 1 ranking. I think they got it right.
Yeah, I agree too. Texas have been beating the arse off teams, but no one special. I think the way Alabama played against probably the number 1 team on paper in Georgia and the way they won, they deserve number 1. Good news for Georgia is they stayed at 5. You look underneath them, you have Oregon, who, have been a bit hit and miss. Penn State haven't been impressive. We just spoke about Miami. Missouri lost 1. Michigan have lost 1. USC have lost 1. Ole Miss just lost. So Georgia's still in a good spot. And even if they lose to Texas,
Big Ten guy. Hey, I got a question for the Big Ten guy. Who is voting for Ohio State? Come on now. Who are these 4 people? Come on, Big Ten guy. I want to know, after seeing Alabama and Texas how they've been this year, who's voting for Ohio State right now?
There's no opinion on Ohio State because they've literally played no one.
Exactly. So they don't get any. They shouldn't get any votes.
Well, they're preseason number 3. So you start preseason number 3, you stay there. They've got Oregon in a few weeks, so that's going to be their first real test, and then they'll have Michigan at the end of the year, rivalry week, and then they'll have the Big Ten championship, I assume. So we'll see how Ohio State's going to go, but I think they should stay at 3.
Yeah, well, that's fine. They'd be at 3. They shouldn't get any votes.
Tennessee at 4 kind of came out of nowhere, and Georgia has them as well.
Yeah. Georgia's schedules, I mean, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's getting as Tennessee gets better, their schedule gets harder. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is one thing I will say. Like it's going to be interesting come playoff time because let's say Georgia does lose. Let's say they win out, but they do lose at Texas, right?
Yeah.
Like, does a 2-loss Georgia team to Alabama and Texas get into the playoffs?
Should.
I think
probably.
I think you have to say they probably won't, but I would have to say yes because I mean, you have to. I mean, and some of these teams, I'm sorry, man, they're going to walk. They're going to walk to the playoffs with their schedules the way they are, and it'd be interesting just to see. Not even Georgia, but any SEC team that has maybe 1 or 2 losses to top teams, if they get allowed to pass there.
They would put in a 1-loss Notre Dame team over a 2-loss Georgia team, and that shows you how screwed up the system is. So thankfully we have 12. So hopefully, it doesn't come down to that. But yeah, it just shows you that it's just ridiculous. So I don't know.
Yeah, the good news for Georgia is if you look right now at like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You have USC who they lost. They're all like amazing. Ole Miss, they lost on the weekend. LSU lost to USC. Notre Dame, we know about their loss. And then Clemson's at 15, who Georgia smoked. So like they've got a bit of a upper hand, I think, out of those teams. They play Ole Miss, so we'll see what happens. But it's going to be even with 12 teams, it seems like there's going to be some debate. So that's good.
Yeah, and October 19th, Texas-Georgia game, and Alabama and Tennessee play.
Wow.
So we'll get some answers after October the 19th.
That might be the new October 12th. I've spoken about October 12th since the start of the season, but teams have kind of dropped away. So it's not as exciting as what it was going to be. San Diego just hit a home run, so not looking great.
I don't want to hear that.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to the NFL. Big week, few surprises. Chris,
Yes.
what was your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
What would you like to talk about?
You want to talk about Monday first?
Yeah. We want to talk about Monday. We were talking about the Seahawks all day last week. We got to start off with the Seahawks now. That was a great game.
It was a good game. I was obviously disappointed with their defense.
Yeah.
I don't know. How did we let Jared Goff go 18 of 18? Unbelievable.
It's the NFL record, isn't it?
Something like, definitely some type of record.
Yeah.
I hear y'all stole the game ball too. What was up with that? It was like a Giannis situation. What'd y'all do? Would y'all steal the game ball and like run away with it?
Where'd you hear that?
Dan Campbell didn't save the game ball, so he was like apologizing to Jared Goff because he set a record.
He gave it to someone else. He didn't know that Jared.
Yeah, that's
he
what
didn't know Jared
yeah.
Goff had played the perfect game, so he gave it to someone else. And then they told him, he's like, "Shit." The only thing I'll take away from it is that our offense looked really good, which has been my biggest concern. Gino's a top 10 quarterback. I'll fight that till I'll die on that hill. He's a top. What are you talking about? What did you see on Monday night that made you think he's not a top 10 quarterback? He had Aiden Hutchinson had 12 pressures. He was in his face the whole game, and he threw for 390 yards, no picks, touchdown. He should have had a couple more, but
he threw a pick.
Last play of the game? Going for it.
Still counts as an interception. So I'm sorry.
He played a lot better than Jordan Love. That's all I'll say.
You're so emotional.
I think Gino's I think he's a good quarterback. He's probably, I would somewhat agree, top 10. Definitely top 12. I'll put him in that conversation.
Who's the two that you want to put over him? Like right this season, name me 9 quarterbacks right now playing better than him.
Man, he's so heated.
I just want some respect on Gino's name.
No,
Everyone's like, it's Gino.
Dude, I just said Gino's a good quarterback. I mean, there's an argument for him to be a top 10. I said, and possibly a top 12.
Yeah, so you're like, he could be a top 10, maybe 12. Like, okay, give me the 2 quarterbacks that would be ahead of him if he's 12.
Man.
He's playing better
so
than
angry.
Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Don't. Well, it depends
say
too.
Patrick,
Like, if
don't do that.
Patrick,
Is he not?
Yeah, but let's say how are you rating this for this week? Are you saying he was a top 10 quarterback this week?
No, this season.
Okay. Well, I mean, he probably is a top 10 top 12 quarterback for the season, but you cannot put Patrick. Well, you can't say Gino. You cannot say Patrick Gino's better than Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry.
Oh, my
I'm not going to agree with that. I mean, can't agree with that. He's not better than Allen. He's not better than Lamar Jackson. He's not.
How many?
At this point, he's not better than Jared Goff. I'm just going to say.
How many?
And Jaden Daniels, probably not better than Jaden Daniels.
I'll get out of here. How many of his teammates' ACLs has Gino blown out this season? Okay, so
My Lord.
Patrick Mahomes won. No, obviously he's not on Patrick Mahomes level, but
hang on. Okay, Mark's obviously he's too emotional. He's too biased.
I'll also throw C.J. Stroud in there.
Not this season.
Well,
Look,
I think he is, but
look. Here's what I saw on that game. Okay, so I will give credit to the Seahawks from this point of view. I saw 2 playoff teams playing each other. Okay, I'll give you that. Right?
Yeah.
I think you saw 2 different tiers of playoff teams. I think the Lions are more of a Super Bowl caliber team, and I think the Seahawks are more of a playoff, first or second round team. That's what I saw. So I think that you're really toting the defense the first 3 games against subpar players, and their defense got rocked off the field by the Lions. So that is definitely concerning. I think the biggest thing for the Seahawks, you need Kenneth Walker to be healthy and to keep playing these games. He is a difference maker, and he is an underrated running back in the NFL, but he has not been able to stay healthy, since he had that really good rookie season the last couple of years. Charbonnet's okay, but he is not Kenneth Walker. So I really think he made a lot of plays in that game and put a lot of points on the board for your team. Geno has a lot of help. I mean, he's got DK. He's got, Njigba. He's got, who's the other one? Who's the third one?
Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, Lockett. He's got Lockett. He's got Kenneth Walker. So he has a lot of help, like Jared Goff does. So he had a good game. So we'll see how he does going forward. But I saw two different tiers of teams. I saw a really good team and then a good team.
And that's a true test, right? We talked about this last week where we thought, after we see this game, we'll kind of understand where the Seahawks are. And, they are a good team. They are a good team, but they do have a pretty, schedule coming up here. A couple games, pretty brutal schedule in the next 4 or 5 games coming up.
Games.
Yeah.
I'll say this about the defense. We were missing 5 of our 11 starters. So almost half our starters were out. I mean, I might be biased here, but I do think that Mike McDonald is the best defensive coach in the NFL, bar none. I think he's the best. Once he gets his scheme, going in place, so he's only been there for a couple of weeks, and we get some players back, I think our defense is going to get a lot better. And so I'm encouraged by that. I think we can get.
We're lucky. We're happy that you're encouraged.
I'm encouraged that we can get to another tier. So I was happy that we at least stayed in the game on Monday. Is Kenneth Walker a top 10 running back? Are we there yet?
Yeah, absolutely. He's Geno's not a top 10 quarterback, though. I mean, if you're going to ask me, do I trust Geno in the playoffs to put the game on his shoulders and take me to the promised land like a Patrick Mahomes, who you just said he's played better with this year, then he's never done that before. And how old is he?
30.
He's been in the league for quite a while.
33, and he's never really, had a good playoff game. So I guess if the bar is, are they going to be, a playoff team? Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I can't argue with that. But if you're asking me, Geno is going to take us to the promised land, I don't think you could say that yet, So I think we have to wait and see.
Like you said, I mean, the defense with that many players out, I mean, it's going a lot of weights being held on Geno and Kenneth Walker right now to carry that offense to outscore their opponents. So
yeah, the Lions center was out. He's an all-pro center. So, I mean, they had players out too. Brian Branches is an amazing guy in the defensive secretary for Detroit. He was out too. So, I mean, they had injuries too, but, I know Seahawks had more on the defensive line, but I mean, overall, I don't know if that would
Sam Bradford, Blake Bortles, and Nick Foles can take their team to the championship weekend, Geno Smith can do it. Okay, you heard it here first.
Okay. Hey, I'm not saying Hawks are trash. Let's just see what plays out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's talk about Ravens and Bills, because a lot of people had taken the Bills in an upset. It was kind of Bills had started off hot. Everyone's saying, "Oh, they look so much better without Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen's the MVP," and then they got absolutely bounced by mainly Derrick Henry because he was unreal. But the Ravens came and absolutely smoked them.
I mean, what do you want us to say? I guess the question is, are the Bills really not a contender in the AFC, right? Or was this a blip, or are the Ravens actually a legit Super Bowl contender? The Ravens have their ups and downs through the first quarter of the season so far themselves. And the Bills had looked good early in the season, but they had played subpar competition. So, I don't blame Josh Allen on this game. It just seemed like Baltimore came to play, and before he could even get anything going, I mean, they just had run it down the Bills' throat. So that's definitely concerning for the Bills going forward. Their defense had played well in the first 3 games, and they just got trounced. I mean, they had no answers for Derrick Henry in that game at all.
Yeah,
and it's concerning.
Just going down the tracks in that game. They could not stop him.
Yeah, and it's not who you lose. It's who you lose to, right? It's not that you lost. All the NFL teams are going to lose, right? But we think the Bills and the Ravens, if they meet again in a playoff game, it's like who's gonna have any confidence in the Bills to be able to turn this around? So that's the biggest concern, is that you're going to see this team. You might see this team again. So what's going to happen next time around?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, the Ravens looked like last year. They looked really, really good. Derrick Henry, for his age and his position he plays, should be maybe not as effective as what he has been. He ran that run he made, the 87-yard, he ran 0.17 miles slower than Xavier Worthy on his touchdown. He ran a record for 40 time. That is not fair for a guy to be that big, that strong, and that fast.
Yeah, what's his 6'4", 265 or something like that?
Huge. It's like,
and he's had so many runs, he's had so many carries in his career. I mean, these are usually the times that these guys are just cooked and they can't play anymore.
Well, I saw an article about him, just how strict his diet and his workout regimen, like on the off season, is, and how he's so intense about keeping up with that. But yeah, it shows. I mean, he's still getting it, man.
Yeah. On the Ravens, like, I don't think there's a team that's harder to plan for than them offensively. Like, they can run it with Lamar, they can run it with Derrick Henry. The receivers maybe need to get a bit better, but if Mark Andrews gets back to where he's supposed to be, Isaiah Likely, you have two tight ends that can be effective. Zay Flowers, he can make a bit of a leap. They're dangerous across the board. And they can't.
The recipe for them is, like, Lamar threw 18 passes. He should not be throwing it more than 20 times a game. If they want to be successful, stop having him throw it. Every time that he throws it 35 times a game, they lose. So, like, he's a very good situational passer, but he's not, nobody would say he's an accurate thrower over long terms. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw interceptions. He's going to make bad decisions. We saw that against Kansas City in the opening week. He is a situational passer, and he can be really good in those situations, but they have to. You got Derrick Henry now. You have to grind that. You should be running at least 30 times every single game. I don't care how many yards you're averaging in the beginning. Keep running it, because eventually Derrick Henry, he's going to break one. Or you can do an option, or, Lamar can run the situations too. They are a running football team, and they have to continue to do that to be successful.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's probably the way you beat them, is you take away the running option and force him to throw. And then, he seems to make a few mistakes. My biggest concern with that then is, can they play from behind? Like, they're a team that plays from ahead. If they fall behind early against a team that can blow up like the Chiefs, how do they come back from that? But no, they look really good.
Yeah, they put the AFC on notice, so let's see if they can keep it going.
Next game. Let's talk about the Packers now. I wanted to give you a bit of a break. I wanted to give you a...
I'm good.
You came at me.
I didn't get you. You were just saying that Seattle... You just said it's like a done deal that Seattle's going to the Super Bowl, and I was just trying to just get you to gauge your expectations just a little bit so you don't get sad and disappointed later. That's all I was trying to do.
So you guys got Darnold on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Nice and early. And Jordan Love, bad knee, probably came back a week early. He didn't look great, but we'll give him a few weeks. But overall, how are you feeling coming out of the game? Because that's a division game too. And the Vikings are now...
if you... we're not going to talk about injuries, but like I said, if you asked me before the game, like, if we could win that game without Jair Alexander in the game, who was talking smack all week how he's going to shut Justin Jefferson down, I would have said we're not going to win that game with the way Minnesota is playing and the unknowns about Jordan Love. When I first saw Jordan Love make those first couple passes, they were all underthrown because he couldn't step into his dominant leg. I knew we were in trouble right away. You could see it. He did not have the accuracy. As he played more and got more comfortable, he played better in the second half. But yeah, the Vikings had all the momentum, and Jordan Addison came back, who Jordan Addison is probably one of the best number twos in the NFL as far as wide receiver.
Yeah,
and we got Keyshawn Nixon, who's a return man, covering Justin Jefferson. And what happened was, because we had to do that, Justin Jefferson didn't have a big game, but we had to double him every single play because we had nobody that could single cover him. So all the other guys ate. They all ate because they had to put so much attention on Justin Jefferson. It was very similar to the Georgia-Alabama game. It was really weird what was happening, because they went down 28-0 too and came back. But until we can get a field goal kicker, I have no faith in my team whatsoever. Brent Narveson needs to go. He needs to go. I don't know where he needs to go. He needs to go somewhere and get out of here. Anders Carlson missed 6 field goals all of last season. Brent Narveson has already missed 4 in 4 games, and he actually missed 5 because one was called back on a penalty. Man's missed 5 field goals in 4 games when my other guy missed 6. So they said they have confidence in him. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I have no confidence in him. I told y'all before the season started that field goal kicker. I told you guys I was worried about this Tennessee Titans field goal kicker. And Mark, you were like, no. He's lost to 2 games now, and we're 2-2. So as long as we got him on the team, I have no confidence in this team going forward. So Hate
Take-
kickers.
If
Take
you
a sip
need a
of
kicker
water.
on your fantasy team, go pick up Narvison. They have a bounce back week this week.
I don't know. He looks shaky.
I was not impressed with Darnold. I know everybody's talking about Sam Darnold. He's seen every time he was under pressure, which the Packers did not give it to the Vikings. Their offensive line was amazing. Anytime he's under duress, he plays like crap. He's just been protected so well, and he has so many weapons. I don't know if they're going to be able to continue to do that for him. So I'm not seeing Sam Darnold, the magic man, like everybody else is seeing it. I watched the whole game. I wasn't impressed with Sam Darnold. He's throwing for 4 touchdowns every game, but it's like 180 yards. You got Jordan Addison. You got Justin Jefferson. You can't throw for over 200 yards.
I don't know. I watched a lot of that game too. Some of his throws were good. The first touchdown of Jordan Addison was a nice one over the top of your linebackers, and like he kind of caressed it in there. That was a nice one.
Yeah, he just was never under duress basically the entire game. So,
He's fitting so perfectly in that system right now. I mean, right now, the way that our defense is playing for the most part, and I mean, and the playmakers they have at receiver, I mean, he just needs to manage that game. He's not putting up crazy numbers all the time, but also Jordan Love, I mean, he threw 54 times in that game.
Yeah, that was a lot. I mean,
they were just they were down so much, and then they couldn't really run the ball that well. And yeah, he just started slinging it. It was just way too many times for a guy on a bum leg. If I knew he couldn't step in and throw, I don't think he should have played. I mean, I really don't. So even if you lose that game, you at least give him an extra week to get better. But he probably just told the coaches he was good to go.
Oh, there's so much to talk about. It's awesome.
No, we got to talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that was
I want to hear about it. I want to hear y'all's take on Aaron Rodgers and what we saw in that game.
Broncos and Jets. Broncos they go 2-2 now.
Frisky Broncos.
Bo Nix throws for 60 yards and they win. Aaron Rodgers. Derrick, I'll start with you. I don't know if you saw any of the game, but
yeah, I saw some of it towards the second half. But yeah, I watched some of it.
yeah. What do you think?
Well, I wasn't his greatest performance. He also, it was all the false starts that was happening. He made kind of in that interview after the game or the press conference, they were asking him about that. And he kind of seemed like there was nothing to change and nothing really to fix. And maybe they should kind of tone that back some, but he doesn't really seem so. And, he had the towel over the head at the end. I mean, it says it all. Wasn't his greatest moment in that game, to be honest with you. Wasn't the most exciting game to watch, but Broncos came out with a win. And
yeah, terrible weather. But that interview,
it was raining.
The post game interview is the most concerning.
Yep.
That's the most concerning. Okay, because yes, Blah goes in there and says I didn't play well enough, blah blah, and then
change the cadence. He said change the cadence.
Yeah,
step back on the cadence.
Rodgers goes in there and completely disagrees with him publicly. Can't do that. Can't do it. That's how Aaron Rodgers is. He beats to his own drum, but I think there's a clear disconnect in relationship between coach and quarterback. Which I mean, he didn't really get along with your guy that well.
LaFleur. Because LaFleur's the head coach, and LaFleur wants to run his offense, and Aaron Rodgers wants to run the Aaron Rodgers show.
Right.
So,
but what I'm saying, my point was that they were still successful, even though they probably butted heads, which I think Salah and Rodgers are butting heads a lot. But it was a disappointing performance. Garrett Wilson didn't play well. He dropped a few. O-line, nothing but false starts. Frustrating game. But Aaron Rodgers is a hard count guy. So I don't know how they haven't been practicing that all off season. But
part of the problem with Aaron Rodgers too, I think winning that Super Bowl, it's like he won that Super Bowl and he just after that his demeanor has changed a lot over the decade.
He used to be humble.
He's too
he
good.
Was a humble
he's
guy
too
when he
good
first
for any
started
team.
playing.
Like everybody should be thankful to have him on the team. And hey, also, Devontae Adams might be a Jet here soon.
Well,
he wants to play with his boy again, so that'll give him maybe another weapon. But he's just Aaron Rodgers. I used to kind of like him, but he seems like he just wants to butt heads with everyone and anyone, and he might as well be the GM of the team / owner.
Yeah, The Adams thing is interesting because that makes sense, right? But he's got a really big contract, and they've got a lot of guys they need to pay. You got Garrett Wilson coming off contract, Brees Hall coming off contract, Sauce Gardner coming off contract. So it might be a short-term solution. And if I'm the Jets right now, I'm like, I need to see more that you guys are actually contenders before I go and give away a second-round pick for a half a season. I don't think Adams stays more than one season, so it has to be something that gets them across the line. And if you look at their team now, you have Garrett Wilson. Lazard is actually their leading receiver. I don't think there's a big need for Devonta Adams, but again, he's a great receiver and he's got a good relationship. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is in the ear of the GM
and he has
trying
a
to get them
quote
across the line.
hamstring injury at the moment.
yeah, the hamstring injury.
I just can't win. Another one of my fantasy players just disappointed, man.
We're going to have a segment every week of Derrick's fantasy woes because your boy Travis, he was back on it again.
Because they made a big deal. Everyone knew Travis Kelce was going to get thrown to like 1,000 times on Sunday because they wore the shirts and everybody was cheering him on and telling him he's the best thing. And everybody knew that Mahomes was going to target Kelce like crazy on Sunday. So, yeah, he got some points.
And Mahomes targeted Kelce and targeted Rashee Rice's knee. So that was great for my fantasy team because I lost Rice for the season.
That was just disappointing. That's kind of a disappointing play there. Just kind of a freak accident. But I saw that. I feel bad for him. That was just trying to make a tackle there, and Mahomes did it to him.
Yeah. After an intercept, he was pissed. Hey, Chris, we'll go back to Aaron Rodgers. Do you have any final words on him?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Everybody talked about the Jets and their skill players and their defense. Nobody talked about their offensive line. Their offensive line is terrible. They can't run the ball, and they can't protect Aaron Rodgers, who is about to be 41 years old, is totally immobile in behind the line. He can't even scoot to one side or the other. And what you're seeing is what you saw from Denver was they just were teeing off on him. They were sending pressure. They were blitzing from the edges. And when he hones it on one guy, which is Lazard now, God, I don't know how it's Lazard, but now it's Lazard. He's only looking one side of the field. He's got his back turned, and he get sacked 5 times? So you're just going to continue to see teams do this. Now they're playing Minnesota in London with Flores, and the way that he disguises and blitzes, what I just saw against Green Bay, you just got to hope he can make it through the season. And I was always told that Aaron Rodgers was brought there to win games like that. Sam Darnold can lose you a 10-9 game in the rain in MetLife. So you brought him in there to win that game. If you give defense gives up 10 points, you have Aaron Rodgers, you're supposed to win those games. And if he can't win games like that, this team's going nowhere. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. There's 3 more things I want to talk about, 3 more games, but I want to talk about coaches in the hot seat. So there's 2 that I want to chat about. The first one is Nick Sirianni at the Eagles. I think he's got 3 weeks max. He looks like he's completely lost that dressing room. He's completely lost the fan base. Every Philly fan I speak to just can't stand the sight of him. It seems like the halo effect of the Super Bowl is worn off. Jalen Hurts is, for lack of a better word, awful.
Regressed, you could say, is a nice way to say it.
Okay, there you go. I do not think he is a top 10 quarterback, that's for sure. And they got trounced on the weekend. So who's to blame here? You said regression for Jalen Hurts. Obviously, it's going to fall on the coach. How long do you think Sirianni has? Do you think he makes it out? What do you need to see from the Eagles? What's your outlook?
Let's look at their schedule. They have a bye, so they're not going to fire him this week, okay? Then they have 2 interesting games. They're at home against the Browns, which we've all talked about the Browns, right? You lose that game, and then they're at the Giants. Okay, if they lose to the Browns and then at the Giants, he's gone. He'll be done. And that'll be it for him. That's my opinion on it. So I think he can skirt through if he goes 1-1 and kind of just skirting through. But if they fall a few games under 100, I think they'll make a change immediately and put one of the who are their coordinators? They got 2 who they got? Kellen Moore and forget who's
there, and can't remember they got Kellen Moore's there. And
I think they'll probably put him as an interim and kind of go from there because things are looking down in Philly right now. I think we all have them as a playoff team. I had them as a wild card.
I did.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I don't see playoffs in this team's future as currently constructed, in my opinion.
Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator. So yeah, they have good coordinators. Their offense, though, it reminds me a lot of the Ravens. You have a quarterback, a mobile quarterback. You have an insane running back, and then you have those really good receivers that should be doing a lot more. But they
Yeah.
let
Well,
Baker run all over them.
Smith and Brown's been out. I mean, it's
Yeah, they've had some injuries. Brown's been out, but
and Smith was out this past Sunday, so I mean, they have either one of them.
yeah, it's
I mean, that's a factor, but I mean, I think the issue with Jalen has been the turnovers. He's been a
Right.
turnover machine, and I mean, he had 2 fumbles again. It's like, I understand you don't have anybody to throw to, but like, don't fumble the ball. And I don't know where they would be without Saquon at this point. Saquon's been the best running back in football so far this season. I don't know what they would be without him. They might be 1-3, 0-4. So I mean, that was a godsend for this team, and they still can't get over the hump.
so Jalen Hurts, when running to the left, scrambling to the left, has more turnovers than touchdowns or completions even. He's terrible to the left. And when it's that damning, it's so easy to scheme against defensively. You just go, yeah, push him to the left, see what he does. Yeah, so they've got to turn it around quick. They got 2 winnable games, as you said, Chris, but it's almost must-win territory.
Yeah, it just seems like the locker room's given up on him, and nobody wants to even be associated with him at this point. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
next one, Derrick, I'll go to you first. Doug Pederson. He looked like a defeated man on the podium on Sunday after another loss. Seemed surprised when someone asked him about his job security. How long do you think he has? Because there's a lot of issues there. I got a lot of thoughts.
Like next week or the week after.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's not the only one to blame, but he's definitely on the hot seat, and that team is just. I don't even know I guess I'm a little shocked that they're this bad. I didn't have them winning the division, but I definitely didn't have them coming out like this. I mean, yeah, I mean, they had a chance to win it too against a pretty good Texas team, and that's the kind of the bad part is they kind of just let it go, and they really needed that win to kind of turn things around, just maybe get one win under the belt. But now they're 0-4. Doesn't like team chemistry isn't there. Trevor Lawrence doesn't even want to be there. That's what it looks like to me. It's like no passion from the guy. Like it's just like, oh, okay, like we look good, but we're not looking good now. Okay,
But that's exactly why they brought him in, Doug Pederson, because of the work that he did with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles that year. And I've mentioned this earlier, but like the Overmeyer situation at Jags just was terrible for Trevor. So they brought him in, and we've spoken about Trevor Lawrence a lot on this podcast and the lack of growth from him. So he hasn't done what he was brought in to do. And on top of that, they're not winning. They haven't really been successful. They've thrown away the playoffs. Yeah, I think he's got a couple of weeks. Chris, so you're not in your head.
Yeah, I would just say I actually thought that was the best game they played this year. And now this next week, they have my Colts. The Jags have owned the Colts. Okay, now the Colts get some flowers. All right, the Colts get their flowers. I told you they're going to be Pittsburgh, but that's a different discussion. But the Jags have averaged, I think their average victory over the Colts last few years is like 15, 16 points. So if they're at home, if they get trounced by the Colts, which I don't know, if Joe Flacco plays, okay, and Joe Flacco comes in your house and tears you up, Jonathan Taylor has a high ankle sprain. I don't think he's going to play in the game. The Colts are just beat to hell. DeForest Buckner, I mean, they're just beat to hell on both sides of the ball. If they come into your house and they trounce you, I think he's gone, after that game immediately, because you can see it going south quickly. They have owned the Colts. They're at home. The Colts are beat to hell. They should win that game. They should win that game in convincing fashion. And if they don't, yeah, we might be saying we told you so here next week.
Yeah. All right. Any other games you want to talk about?
You want to talk about the Falcons or no?
You're good? Yeah. Ooh, I love that. That was awesome.
I just thought it was a cool game. I thought that it's nice to see a field goal kicker that can actually make field goals in clutch. I was a little jealous, but it was good, nice to see that. What do you make at the end? Was that like 57, 58-yard field goal? I mean, come on, man. That's clutch. That was a huge game for them in the division. I mean, huge implications. That division has turned into one of the worst to one of the best. You got Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans. They are all playoff teams right now, in my opinion. I think they are all going to be competing for that division and for wild card spots. Yeah. So huge game. They got another one this Thursday night against Tampa Bay. So let's roll in the South. That's good.
How about the Falcons on prime time?
Yeah.
I haven't seen this many primetime games from them, but it's good. And again, you see them, Kirk is still getting integrated. He's like Aaron Rodgers. He's still finding his feet a little bit from the injury, still building that chemistry. And they're 2-2, almost beat the Chiefs. Should have beat the Chiefs. And a couple of dodgy calls there. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting.
It was a great game.
Yeah, and Young Hoku, I think is one of the best, if not the best kicker in the league right now.
Yeah, awesome I agree story. With you. He's definitely top, at least top.
Probably him and Aubrey from the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And he's such a great story as well. I think he went unsigned for a year. So it's just, it's happy days in Atlanta. We'll be there, Chris, in a couple of weeks when they play the Seahawks. So
I'm going to have, I'm going to be decked out in Atlanta gear, man. I hope you're ready.
When Koo was hitting those kicks, were you just like, why couldn't he have the yellow and green on right now?
Oh yeah, it was like 18 different emotions. I was so happy and so sad and so angry and so jealous and so jovial at the same time. It was like, I don't know, it was hard to describe, but yeah, it was. I just like seeing a field goal kicker actually make a kick, in the clutch. I was happy
and helping their team win the game.
I know, I like him. He seems like a good guy, so I like it when good guys, good things happen to him.
Yeah, good for him. All right, before we look forward to next week, we're enough into the season now to do a top 5 power ranking. So, Chris, start with your 5th. Why? And then Derrick and I will surely disagree with you, but then we'll work our way down to 1.
This is an objective list, okay? And objectivity means that there's no personal feelings involved, okay? It's just my opinion on what I've actually seen so far. Number 5. We haven't talked about this team at all. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know they lost to the Colts. Their defense looks great, and that was the best game that Justin Fields has played. Your boy, Russell Wilson, I think he's done. I guess he got that game ball a few weeks ago, but I don't think he's getting in a game to actually use a game ball, because I think Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback the rest of the way. And if he can continue to go forward in this trajectory with that defense, I think they can make some noise in the AFC. They got Tomlin. They got the defense. They got TJ Watt. I could see them in a market for a DeAndre Hopkins or, a Devontae Adams as well. Nobody's talking about Pittsburgh getting one of these wide receivers. I definitely think they could do that. They got the running game. So they got number 4 defense and a plus 22-point differential. So I got them at number 5.
Yeah, I agree that they could be in the market for one of them, because you've got Pickens, who Derek knows Pickens very well. He's a great player, polarizing for sure, but he's a great player. But he's young, so a bit of help, a veteran there would be awesome. I think 5's a little high for them, but I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think Justin Fields is playing well. Tomlin's a great coach. TJ Watt's like my favorite player in the NFL. He just tears it up every week. So, yeah.
See? Continue? You want me to keep going?
Yeah, go on.
All right. Number 4, I got the Buffalo Bills. I know they got rocked by the Ravens, but this is a season overall perspective. They went 3-1, and they look very impressive in their first 3 games. I think they're going to be the clear-cut division winner in the East, which is a bad division. And they got number 20 offense, number 14 defense, but a plus 39-point differential. I think Josh Allen's the second best quarterback in football. So as long as you got him upright, I think they'll be fine, and they'll continue to win games going forward.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I'm trying to think of who your last 3 might be, and there might be a few teams missing that. That's
would make you feel any better, Chris. I have Bills at number 4 too.
Oh, see, look at that. Derek's got Bills at 4 too.
You guys should go on a little date in the weekend or something.
Why? Because I don't have. You thought I was going to say Seattle.
No, not Seattle. Not Seattle. Not after that.
Seattle's number 1 through 5. They get off 5 spots.
Well, I'm sorry. Hang on a second. The Bills and the Seahawks have had the same season. They've trounced. They've played against 3 poor teams and won, and then played against a decent team and got
one team has Josh Allen, the other has Geno Smith. So I mean,
so they've both got top 10 quarterbacks. I don't see what you're saying. Anyway, look, okay. I digress. The Bills would have been everyone's number 1 last week, so 4 is not out of the realm. I want to see who your 3 are.
Number 3, I have the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, good. I said if you didn't put the Vikings in there, I would have lost my shit.
I still think it's fool's gold. If you ask me right now, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. If you look at the end of their season schedule, they are on a terrible run. I still think it's just a Fugazi or whatever you want to call it. But right now they have been, probably the most impressive team in the NFL as far as like playing the games. They got number 10 offense, number 23 defense. Everybody keeps talking about defense. They gave up a lot of yards against Green Bay, but they have a plus 57 point differential. So I got them at number 3.
Yeah. Again, good point. This is power rankings of current form. So
Correct.
future doesn't happen. We've had that argument in the past with some people. Shout out Emery. I know you listen to this.
Everybody's going to like my list because I got, if I go to number 2, I got the Detroit Lions. So
Detroit Lions at 2. Okay.
Yeah, I got them at 2. Number 4 offense, still number 22 defense. They did get shredded a little bit but I guess he's a top 10 quarterback in Geno, so you can't be sad about that. Plus 22 point differential. And right now they look like the best team in the NFC to me. I mean, I don't see any other teams that have the talent level that they have. I'm not a Jared Goff guy. I've never been a Jared Goff guy. I probably never will be a Jared Goff guy. But if Jameson Williams can come into his own, like I saw him doing on Monday night, and you got Amon St. Brown, I mean, there's no limit to what this offense can do. So definitely impressive so far.
No, I don't think so. They lost at home to the Buccaneers,
who have been a good team.
They was at home. They shouldn't be losing at home to the Buccaneers.
Buck is a good team, Mark.
Yeah, they're a good team. I didn't say they're not a good team.
Okay.
I'm saying you shouldn't be losing.
I mean, how many undefeated teams are there in the NFL right now?
What
do we got?
The Rams.
There's only 2 teams that are undefeated.
There's only 2 teams that are undefeated.
They beat the Rams in overtime, and the Rams are terrible, right? I would say they handled the Cardinals, and we didn't even talk about Jaden Daniels. I'm so sorry, but they didn't even they handled the Cardinals. It wasn't like a convincing victory. Jared Goff threw 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, and then they beat the Seahawks, but looked terrible on defense. I don't know.
Okay. So, all right. Would we all have? I have Kansas City. We have Kansas City at 1. We all have Kansas City at 1, right?
No, I wouldn't.
I have.
You don't have Kansas City.
You don't have the Ravens in your top 5 who just trounced the Bills.
They're 2-2.
But the Bills are. You think the Bills are better than them?
I mean, overall through the first quarter of the season, yes. It's not just one. It's not just who played who, or else then I'd have Tampa Bay up there, and I
would have preferred Tampa Bay.
The Colts just beat the Steelers. Like, I'm going to have them up there.
I have your 1 and 3 flipped. I actually have the Vikings at number 1 right now.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree.
And then
with
I have Kansas City at 2, and then Lions at 3.
So none of you have the Ravens.
I have the Ravens number 5, and even though they're 2-2, they're the only team that I obviously would have done that with, just because of their performances in the 2 losses that they did have.
They lost to the Raiders.
I understand.
Raiders.
I understand. They lost to the Raiders. I think that was a fluke. I don't think that happens 9 out of 10 times. That does not happen. They look great against the Bills. I mean, I'm telling you right now, the Ravens right now, if they keep that formula they did on Sunday, and like we just talked about, they're definitely a top 5 team. But
yeah, I think the Chiefs at 1 is like, it's the Patrick Mahomes effect. He's not playing well. Kelsey's not playing well. They've just lost their best receiver. The defense is playing well. That's the only thing that's holding.
I've heard it too many times to write that team off. I'm not falling for it this time. I can't.
Yeah, and I do say, like, I do.
Okay, but hang on, Chris. If you're saying you've learned it too many times to write that team off, you're now you're ranking them based on futures, which you just said you can't do.
If the Chiefs and Minnesota, because who do you got number 1, Mark? Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota will be 1.
So if the Chiefs and Minnesota play today, who you taking?
Minnesota.
Okay.
I don't know. Now, I mean, obviously you say today. I mean, now they're without Rice too, and I don't know.
I think it's okay. Here's another question for you. If the Bills and the Ravens are playing today, who would win? I'll answer that question for you because they just played 2 days ago, and the Ravens smoked them, and you have the Bills ahead of them.
Yeah, but the Kansas City, they're undefeated though. Like you're saying that.
What's on record?
Okay, if Kansas City was 2-2 right now, I wouldn't have them in the top 5 because they're.
I was just about to say, like, W's do. Like, for me, I definitely, like, I'm with Chris. I do think records count, right? Like, I do, like, you got 2 4-0 teams, so they're my number 1 and number 2 as of right now. But and like I said, I didn't want to throw the Ravens in there, but I just have so much faith in the Ravens right now. Like, I definitely think they're a top 5 team. I know they're 2-2. That's the only reason I threw them in that top 5.
Yeah.
But
you know what? Just change subject quickly. I'm going to put, for college football, I'm going to put UNLV as my number 1 team because they're undefeated. So they're the best team in college
Wait a minute.
The Nittany Lions. I would put the Vikings. Then I would put the Ravens.
You
Then I
got the
would
Ravens against Detroit, above Detroit Lions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Ravens number 2.
Yep.
Okay.
Just purely like there hasn't been too many, top teams playing each other yet this season. And when they do, and you see what we just saw, that complete dominance, for me, that'll put them up there. So Ravens 2, 3, I would probably have the Bills. And then 4, I'm going to put the Commanders at 4. That was really good.
No,
That was
I'm a
really
They're
good.
top 10. They're definitely top 10. They're not top 5
Yes,
though.
I am a Jaden Daniels guy, but they've squeaked by. 2 of those wins were really close, so their defense doesn't look good at all. And Jaden Daniels, he's going to have a regression at some point. He's not going to keep completing 87% of his passes. So, I mean,
You're a hater.
what are you talking about? I picked him to win that division. Y'all laughed in my face.
No,
So
look, I'll put the Bills 4 and the Commanders 5. That's what I would
Okay.
do. That's who I think is playing the best football right now. The Lions.
you don't have
would
Detroit. You don't have Detroit in the top 5.
I'd have them at 6.
Just
I'm
'cause
not
they
been
beat
impressed by them.
Because they beat the crap out of your team on Monday night.
Yeah, they dominated us. They killed us on offense. I'm not denying that, but I haven't been impressed by them as the best team in the NFC. The NFC is wide open, and
That's what
I
you gotta love
agree.
about it. Like, right, it's everybody's perception. Like, what?
Oh,
The
yeah.
whole
what is
NFL is wide open. It's been there's really
Yeah,
been
that's
no
very
team
true.
that's been head and shoulders above anybody else so far. It's
Yeah,
very,
I've quite
very
enjoyed
muddled.
this like quarterback struggle throughout the season. Like I've enjoyed it because it's brought everyone closer. Defense is playing really well. Running backs are getting a lot more out there, and then like these, washed quarterback, if you want to call them that, Darnold, Fields, they're all having Gino. They're all having like a good season. So it's interesting. It's great. Like it's not just a quarterback at the moment that's saying, oh, this is the best team because of the quarterback. So
A lot of
Yeah.
2-2, 3-1, 3-1 teams, and then then you just have like that's a handful of just really.
I mean,
0-4, not going to go anywhere teams.
Jag. I mean, but the Bengals at 1-3. I expect them to be better, but they'll get there.
I mean, they're gonna if they beat the Ravens this week, which they're playing this week, Bengals got to go to number 1, right? That's the reasoning. That's the logic.
If they smoke them, then I'll be in there. I'll put them in there. Love this. There's always a fun discussion, the power rankings. All right, let's go to this week. We got the Bucks and the Falcons tomorrow night. That's going to be a great one. Another division game. Really looking forward to that. Any other games that?
Yeah, there's 3 big games. Bucks at Falcons. You just talked about Jets and Vikings in London. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And then Ravens Bengals. Those are, and then I'm sorry, Bills Texans. Those are those big 4 this week.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how the Bills, especially away from home again, how they bounce back because
they got to show up. They got to show up to play. They can't get trounced again, or nobody's going to be believing them.
Mm-hmm.
What about
their favorite?
Also, the Sunday and Monday night games aren't. I mean, it ain't too bad. I mean, Cowboys and Steelers.
Yeah. That's
On Sunday, and then you got Saints and Chiefs on Monday night.
We got a big week coming up.
Saints could take that one.
And then just for the storyline, I'm loving watching the Commanders play. Just like Cliff Kingsbury, Jaden Daniels, they're looking great. The Browns, I just like watching them. So not the Browns, I like watching the Commanders. They're playing the Browns. I want to make that very clear. I do not like watching the Browns. Jesus Christ.
So now you're going with the Browns. Seahawks aren't panning out after one game, and you got to switch teams.
No.
Okay.
I love London games though. I love when there's an early morning Sunday game because like it always feels like it takes forever to get to 1 o'clock. So when you got that like 9:30, 10 a.m. game, you got the whole day. So
Yeah, that's true.
The worst part of it though is like the wives don't know there's football on, so it's 9:30 and they go, what are you doing? You watching a replay? I'm like, no. There's a 9:30 game, and then
No, you wake up and you say, I'm going to go downstairs and clean the kitchen, and then I go downstairs and then you just, turn the game on.
Not everyone. It must be nice having 2 stories, okay? Not everyone has 2-story houses over here, okay? I've got 1 story. There's no escaping it, okay? I might have to like lay in bed and put a headphone in and just pretend I'm sleeping in.
Mark, did you have a bad day at work today or something? Have you had a bad day? You're angry today. You're fired up. I like it. I like the energy.
Brought some intensity on this.
Hey, you brought some
podcast.
intensity.
Well, we need to. We were told from our one listener that we need to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, we were told by our
On
one
this
listener we
episode,
need
on this
life. They
episode.
said we need more life.
More
Yeah,
light.
you're living right now, buddy.
I hope I brought it for you guys.
Didn't realize that, but thank you for the advice, and we'll take you up on that.
Did you notice that I didn't even care about the time as well? Like,
I know.
just
I was
completely
going to say
freeballed this
something,
one.
Mr. Time Mate. Well, there was just too much to discuss, too much to talk about
Great week.
I'm gonna
with everything going on.
I'm gonna edit out some of your bullshit.
Oh, you,
No.
hey. Well, how's that any different than any other episode we've done? So, I mean, I'm used to it by now.
All right. Well, this was fun. Looking forward to another big week. We'll be back same time next week talking about football. I think actually there's a football game on college or NFL every day from now until November 27. So we're
Great month for just sports,
Good
period.
Lord.
October's just a great month.
Oh, yeah.
October, you were
Baseball,
right.
NFL,
That's the best month of the year. You got NBA about to start. I mean,
NBA.
everything's going on.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to have a lot to talk about, but this is the Fans Huddles podcast from Mark, Chris, and Derek. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Peace
See
out.
ya.